What if one of the world's greatest natural wonders was starting to break apart? Cracks beneath Niagara Falls are growing, and scientists are getting worried.
Bitterly cold conditions at Niagara Falls have seen the river freeze over, creating a stunning winter landscape. Temperatures at the waterfall have dropped to -8 degrees, causing the icy stillness below.
In early 2025, shocking reports began circulating online. Satellite images appeared to show fractures forming along the cliffs on both the American and Canadian sides of Niagara. Drone footage revealed long, jagged lines cutting through the limestone, faint at first, but growing wider each month. Local authorities dismissed it as minor erosion, but geologists quietly admitted something didn't look right. Niagara Falls has stood as a monument to nature's power for nearly 12,000 years, carved by ancient glaciers and fed by the relentless flow of the Great Lakes. Every second, over 3,000 tons of water crash over its edge. It has eroded rock for millennia. That much is known. But what's happening now doesn't look like normal erosion. Sensors positioned around the gorge have picked up microseismic vibrations, tiny tremors shaking the bedrock beneath the falls. In several locations, water flow has subtly shifted, carving new channels through the rock. The question scientists are now asking is terrifying. Is Niagara becoming unstable? If the cracks continue to grow, Niagara Falls, one of Earth's most iconic landmarks, could face a collapse unlike anything seen in modern history. Chapter 1. The day the cracks appeared. It started as a rumor. A tourist from Ontario posted a drone video online showing what looked like fractures running along the upper cliffs near Horseshoe Falls. Within hours, the footage went viral. The cracks seemed to zigzag across the rock face, some stretching over 100 feet. At first, officials called it an optical illusion, but when local geologists reviewed the footage, they couldn't ignore it. Satellite data confirmed subtle deformations along the gorge, shifts of just a few centimeters, but enough to raise alarms. Engineers were dispatched to inspect the cliffs. What they found shocked them. New fissures forming within layers of limestone and shale, rock weakened by centuries of pounding water. These fractures weren't random. They followed the same fault lines that have shaped Niagara's movement for thousands of years. For decades, experts have known that the falls are retreating. Erosion pushes them upstream by about a foot each year. But the cracks forming in 2025 seem different, faster, deeper, and concentrated in areas once thought stable. And then came the sound. Locals reported hearing deep, low rumbles echoing through the gorge late at night. Too faint for most to notice, but unmistakable to those who live near the river. To some, it felt like the earth itself was groaning beneath the falls. Was this the sound of erosion, or the first warning of something much worse? Chapter 2. Tremors beneath the falls. At first, the rumbling under Niagara was dismissed as background noise. The constant thunder of 3,000 tons of water pounding the gorge every second. But when sensors began picking up rhythmic seismic pulses, scientists realized the vibrations were coming from deeper underground. Microseismic monitors detected a string of faint quakes, too small to feel, but clustered directly beneath the riverbed. These weren't normal. The tremors repeated every few days, echoing through the same section of the gorge where new cracks were forming. The data grew stranger. Instead of short bursts of shaking, some readings showed low-frequency waves, the kind more often associated with underground collapses or shifting fault blocks. One geophysicist from the University of Toronto described them as groans of a foundation under strain. What could be causing them? Some pointed to the Niagara Graben Fault, a buried fracture that runs through the region, part of the ancient rift system that once threatened to tear North America apart. Others suspected human interference. Niagara's hydroelectric tunnels run deep beneath the surface, diverting water for power generation. Could decades of excavation and pressure changes have destabilized the bedrock? The tremors continued, growing slightly stronger each week. Tourists couldn't feel them, but the instruments could, and the readings suggested something massive shifting beneath the falls. The question haunting scientists now wasn't if the tremors were connected to the cracks, but how soon they might merge into a single, catastrophic event. If you're watching this, you're ahead of the headlines. Niagara's hydroelectric tunnels run deep beneath the surface, diverting water for power generation. Could decades of excavation and pressure changes have destabilized the bedrock? The tremors continued, growing slightly stronger each week. Tourists couldn't feel them, but the instruments could, and the readings suggested something massive shifting beneath the falls. The question haunting scientists now wasn't if the tremors were connected to the cracks, but how soon they might merge into a single, catastrophic event. If you're watching this, you're ahead of the headlines. But stay tuned. What happens next could change Niagara forever. Don't forget to subscribe before Chapter 3 drops, because the truth about what's happening under the falls is only getting darker. Chapter 3. Hidden faults in the Gorge. The Niagara Gorge may look timeless, but beneath its calm appearance lies a complex network of fractures, ancient scars left by the Earth's violent past. Using ground-penetrating radar and seismic imaging, geologists mapped the subsurface in unprecedented detail, and what they found was shocking. Beneath the famous Horseshoe Falls ran two hidden fault lines, intersecting directly under the main flow of water. These faults weren't supposed to be active, but the 2025 scans revealed fresh movement. Tiny displacements cutting through limestone, dolostone, and shale. In geological terms, Niagara is a knife edge, a natural boundary between two massive rock formations, the Lockport Dolomite and the Rochester Shale. The harder dolomite forms the cliff's lip, while the softer shale below erodes faster. It's this imbalance that creates the fall's beauty and its danger. Now, those lower layers are fracturing faster than ever. Pressure from retreating water and underground flow tunnels is stripping away their support, leaving the harder upper rock hanging like a blade ready to fall. In the worst-case scenario, one major fracture could cause a section of the cliff to collapse, sending thousands of tons of rock crashing into the river below. The shockwave from that event could destabilize the rest of the gorge, accelerating erosion that would permanently alter the shape, or even the location, of Niagara Falls. The cracks, the tremors, the hidden faults, all signs of a system under immense pressure. For the first time in its history, scientists are beginning to wonder whether the world's most powerful waterfall is approaching its breaking point. Chapter 4. The collapse scenario. Every scientist who studies Niagara knows one thing: the falls are always moving. Over thousands of years, erosion has pushed them nearly 7 miles upstream. But what's happening now looks less like erosion and more like structural failure. Computer models based on new satellite data simulate what could happen if the widening cracks link up with the hidden faults below. The results are terrifying. In several scenarios, the overhanging dolomite shelf that forms the lip of Horseshoe Falls gives way. Not gradually, but all at once. Thousands of tons of rock plunge into the river below, displacing millions of gallons of water. In seconds, the familiar curtain of the falls would break apart, replaced by a wall of churning debris and shockwaves racing through the gorge. Sensors predict that such a collapse could generate an inland tsunami strong enough to batter the lower riverbanks and shake nearby cities like Niagara Falls, Ontario, and Buffalo, New York. And the aftermath would be just as devastating. Hydroplants downstream could be crippled by sediment and rock. Tourism, the lifeblood of the region, would vanish overnight. The flow of the Great Lakes, one of the largest freshwater systems on Earth, could be permanently altered. The unthinkable could happen. The world's most famous waterfall might literally collapse in front of us, reshaping a natural wonder that has stood for 12,000 years. Chapter 5. The power plant problem. Behind the roar of Niagara lies an even greater human concern: energy. The Niagara River doesn't just power tourism, it powers cities. Massive hydroelectric plants on both sides of the border generate enough electricity to light millions of homes across Canada and the US. But these plants depend on a delicate balance: consistent water pressure, stable tunnels, and unshifting rock. The discovery of deepening cracks and tremors beneath the gorge has thrown all of that into question. Engineers are now racing to assess the safety of underground intake tunnels that carry water from above the falls to the power stations downstream. Some of these tunnels run hundreds of feet beneath the surface, directly through the same formations, now showing signs of instability. If even one of these tunnels collapses or warps under shifting rock, it could set off a chain reaction, flooding turbine chambers, shorting electrical systems, and sending surges through the regional grid. In the worst case, a structural failure beneath the river could cause part of the hydro infrastructure to implode, sucking in water and rock with explosive force. Officials have downplayed the danger, but quiet shutdowns and maintenance orders tell a different story. Some turbines have been throttled back. Nighttime inspections have tripled, and unmarked security vehicles now patrol the riverbanks after dark. What are they protecting? The public or the truth? Chapter 6. The Great Lakes Connection. When scientists talk about Niagara, they're not just talking about a waterfall. They're talking about the drainage valve of the entire Great Lakes system, the largest freshwater network on Earth. Every gallon of water from Lake Superior, Michigan, Huron, and Erie passes through Niagara before flowing to the Atlantic. If something disrupts that flow, the consequences could ripple across half a continent. That's what has experts terrified. If the cliffs around Niagara collapse, or if fault movement alters the riverbed, it could choke the outflow from Lake Erie, forcing the Great Lakes to rise faster than they drain. Even a small change in elevation could raise water levels by inches, enough to flood low-lying cities like Detroit, Cleveland, and Toronto. Researchers at the National Hydrology Center have begun quietly modeling such scenarios, and the results are alarming. The models suggest that a structural collapse in the Niagara Gorge could redirect water flow, erode new channels, or even form temporary dams. That could trigger rapid floods upstream and dangerously low water levels downstream. A nightmare for ecosystems, shipping routes, and drinking supplies. Niagara isn't just a tourist attraction, it's a pressure point. And if that pressure shifts, the Great Lakes and every community around them could face consequences beyond imagination. For decades, we believed the falls were eternal. But what if this is the system's breaking point? Chapter 7. Scientists in panic mode. Inside university labs and geological institutes, the mood has shifted from curiosity to panic. What began as an isolated anomaly, a few cracks on a cliff face, has evolved into a full-blown geological emergency. New satellite interferometry data reveals something shocking. The entire Niagara escarpment is tilting eastward by several millimeters per month. That may not sound like much, but in geological terms, it's enormous. It means the ground around the falls is moving as a single massive block, slowly but steadily toward collapse. Seismologists at the Canadian Geological Survey have detected consistent tremors along a buried structure they're now calling the Niagara microfault. It's old, perhaps hundreds of millions of years, but it appears to have reactivated, possibly triggered by subtle changes in groundwater pressure or seismic stress from deeper in the continent. At emergency meetings in Ottawa and Washington, officials have reportedly discussed containment contingencies. Rumors swirl about classified military imaging and temporary no-fly zones above the river. While governments issue calm public statements, leaked memos paint a different picture. Scientists are scared. One anonymous geophysicist summed it up best: Niagara isn't just cracking, it's moving. And once that motion starts, you can't stop it. The panic isn't just about losing a landmark. It's about what that loss could reveal, that the continent itself may be shifting in ways we don't yet understand. Chapter 8. Towns on Edge. By late summer 2025, the calm that once defined life around Niagara was gone. Tourists still crowded observation decks, but behind the scenes, fear was spreading like wildfire. Local residents began hearing strange echoes at night, deep groans rolling through the gorge, like thunder with no storm. In Niagara Falls, Ontario, small cracks started appearing in streets near the river. Utility workers blamed the freeze-thaw cycle, but engineers quietly filed reports noting unexplained ground movement. On the US side, Buffalo's Emergency Management Office began quietly updating its flood and evacuation maps. Businesses near the falls reported drops in visitors. Tour operators complained that parts of the Gorge Trail were temporarily closed for maintenance, a phrase that had become government shorthand for risk zone. Then came the leaks. Internal memos from geological monitoring teams surfaced online, revealing phrases like unprecedented subsurface instability and potential for large-scale slippage. Within hours, hashtags like #sign Niagara collapse and #sign falls in crisis were trending worldwide. Reporters swarmed the area, helicopters hovered over the gorge, and rumors spread faster than facts. Some claimed the falls were seconds away from collapsing. Others swore the government was hiding something even bigger, like an underground fault reawakening after eons of dormancy. For residents, the message was clear. Something was wrong. The ground beneath their feet, the rock that had stood unchanged for millennia, no longer felt solid. And for the first time in living memory, the people who lived near Niagara Falls were afraid of it. Chapter 9. The Domino Effect. The panic didn't stay local for long. Within days, media outlets across the globe were running non-stop coverage. "Is Niagara Falls collapsing?" headlined international news. Satellite images and drone videos of the widening cracks went viral, viewed hundreds of millions of times. Investors panicked too. Tourism stocks tied to the Niagara region plunged. Insurance companies quietly suspended new policies on riverfront properties. Hotels received mass cancellations. What began as a geological mystery had spiraled into a global financial shockwave. But the domino effect went further than the economy. Cities downstream, like Rochester and Toronto, began running emergency infrastructure checks. Could the instability at Niagara trigger problems farther along the river system? Could it alter the Great Lakes water flow and flood low-lying suburbs? Scientists scrambled to calm the chaos. Niagara isn't collapsing tomorrow, they insisted, but their reassurances fell flat when another tremor struck. A shallow quake measuring magnitude 3.1, centered directly beneath the Horseshoe Falls. That single tremor changed everything. Footage showed the water momentarily rippling, as if struck from below, mist rising higher than ever before. For many, it was the proof they didn't want to believe. The ground beneath Niagara wasn't just cracking, it was moving. The world's most famous waterfall, a symbol of endurance and power, had become a warning of something much larger, a planet that was beginning to shift beneath us all. Chapter 10. The Collapse Countdown. By September 2025, the sense of unease had turned into open alarm. The crack systems under Niagara were growing faster than any model predicted. Satellite interferometry revealed something chilling. The Horseshoe Falls had shifted several inches downstream in less than 2 months. That kind of movement wasn't erosion, it was acceleration. Teams of geologists, engineers, and military specialists flooded the area. They installed laser scanners, borehole sensors, and real-time GPS arrays to measure every tremor. The results were worse than expected. The subsurface rock was deforming continuously, the pressure building with every passing hour. Officials stopped denying the danger. Access roads were closed, river traffic restricted, and for the first time in history, Niagara Falls was officially declared a geological hazard zone. Tourists were evacuated, bridges were emptied, and behind the scenes, a collapse readiness task force was activated on both sides of the border. Every tremor now feels like a heartbeat, a countdown that no one can stop. The falls that carved a continent are on the verge of carving themselves apart. Experts can't say when it will happen, tomorrow, next year, or within our lifetime, but they agree on one thing: the process has already begun. The roar of Niagara has always been a symbol of strength. Now, it sounds like a ticking clock when the earth shifts. For centuries, Niagara Falls has been more than a waterfall. It's been a promise that some things in nature never change. If you want to uncover more shocking geological discoveries, seismic mysteries, and hidden threats shaping our planet's future, make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and share this video before it's too late. Because the ground beneath Niagara Falls is changing, and what happens next could rewrite everything we thought we knew about the stability of our world.